Pokemon Clan, what is going on? My name is dannyphantump. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are all doing well. Hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful week. I am probably, by the time this is live, I hope I am in Indianapolis, or at least very close to Indianapolis. On Thursday is the day where we set everything up for the Pokemon regional event this weekend. It'd be awesome if you guys are there, if I see you guys, or if you come say hi, if you do plan on attending. Regional events are so much fun. I've talked about them a lot. Like I said, I plan on going live this upcoming Friday so you can kind of get a feel for what everything looks like. I know it can be very overwhelming, the thought of attending something like this, and I just kind of want to give everybody a better idea of what to expect because it is so enjoyable. But I'm not going to talk about the regional event. We have plenty of time to talk about that. We're going to talk about the alternate art cards from the Sword and Shield era. Specifically in this video, we're going to focus on the ones that have seen a lot of movement over the past couple of months. The more popular ones, they've been talked about like crazy. I decided I didn't really want to talk about them too much because it was getting a little bit frustrating, right? Like it just seemed like every single day there was something else. And that really seems to be the case right now. It seems like every single day there is something else. And that's why it's so important to kind of stick to your budget, stick to what is important to you, write a list of the cards that you want and focus on what it takes to get that card, focus on making your collection work for you and finding cards that you can pull out of your bulk that have a little value that you can use for trade credit or things like that, maybe at your local game store or maybe at another place online that takes in trading credits and things like that. It's definitely join Discords. You know, you can join our Discord. The link should be in the description down below. Make trades, things like that. That's really the best way that you can do things as far as collecting Pokemon cards go. You want to make sure that you aren't overspending, and that's really what's going to get you to have the most out of this hobby. Once you get so much money involved, and that's the focus, like it just gets very, very frustrating. But we're going to talk about these alternate arts, and I've got things set up a little bit differently on this presentation. I changed things up a little bit because really the ultimate growth has happened over these past 3 months. So I've got a few different numbers that I'm going to point out to you guys, and then we won't go through them in every card, but we're going to start looking at this Lugia V. So the Lugia V alternate art from Silver Tempest obviously saw some huge declines throughout 2023. You can see in May of 2023, it started out right around that $180 mark. That was when Silver Tempest really wasn't that old. It was only about 4 or 5 months old. Well, I guess in May of 2023, at that point in time, it was like 8 months old, but still not too old. And Lugia V was making a lot of noise in the competitive scene. It was a very competitive card, so the alternate art Lugia V did get impacted a little bit by that. But as Lugia started falling out of favor, as you started having these God tins and God boxes of Silver Tempest that were coming out, where a lot of people were opening up these lunch boxes or these sleeve boosters, and they were basically getting a hit in every single one, the Lugia V really started declining. And that was the case for a lot of alternate art Pokemon cards from the Sword and Shield era. We talked about the Sun and Moon era alternate arts and the explosion in price that they had last year. Really around this time, it was completely the opposite for all the Sword and Shield alternate arts, right? You can see in this graph in May of 2023, right around $180, and then all the way up until January of 2024, it was continuing to decline, and it almost looked at one point in time like this Lugia V alternate art was going to be a sub $100 card. However, everything changed, and the other number that I really want to point out is that red number that's at the top, right next to Lugia V. This shows really supply that is available. Now, this doesn't include eBay or other sources that you can utilize to buy Pokemon cards. This is just a TCG player number, so this shows how many listings are available. But a lot of times, a lot of trainer cards, a lot of staple cards, you'll have hundreds of listings. Some of the less popular full arts, you'll have hundreds of listings. We've talked about this a lot over the past several months. Once you get to a lower number, where we're looking at, below 50, that's when prices can really shift extremely fast, because you have people maybe coming in, taking advantage of that lower number, seeing, okay, well, there's only 25, 30 available. I'm just going to buy, 24 of them or whatever the case may be. And I think we've had that happen with a lot of new set releases. We had that happen with a lot of special illustration rares from Temporal Forces. And now you're kind of seeing that happen with alternate arts. Unfortunately, there are people who take advantage of certain situations. And that's why, as frustrating as it was for a lot of these cards to just explode in price, there's different reasons for people to have demand. There's different demand factors that come into price movements. It could be something where people see an opportunity to make money, or people see an opportunity to add a card to their collection, or people see an opportunity to buy something to add to their deck. There's a lot of different reasons as to why demand might occur, but it's important not to let it impact you and make bad decisions based off of that. And the reason we talked about Sun and Moon alternate arts first is because a lot of those have retraced and corrected as far as markets go, and that could very well be something that happens with a lot of these Sword and Shield era alternate arts. And that's why it's important not to make brash decisions based off of emotions, based off of what you've seen just happen over the past month and a half. So if we look at the last 3 months or so of Lugia V, you can see a little bit slow growth from January 31st all the way up until March 31st, where it did jump up about 10-15%, which is still really strong. But then when April hit, it jumped up from about $135 all the way up to $170. So you saw about 10%, 15% growth over the span of 2 months. And then over the last month, you've seen about 35% growth, which is a little bit more abnormal. But part of that is really because you may have buyouts, but you also have a lot more attention, a lot more FOMO, a lot more people like, okay, well, I don't want Lugia V to be the next card and miss out on it. The next card that pulls an Umbreon V and blows up on price. So you probably had some brash decision making that went on to the purchase of this. You can see 47 available on TCG Player. This number is going up a little bit, so this wouldn't surprise me if we saw Lugia V come back down. There was a lot of thought that Lugia V would be very competitive again moving forward this season, or at the end of this season now that rotation has hit. It has not done as well as a lot of people thought it was going to, so that also could impact the price point a little bit. The Gutina V from Lost Origin, I don't even know what to say about this card. It's beautiful artwork. The demand for this card is there, and that's really why you're seeing a ton of growth. The sealed product for Lost Origin, obviously going out of stock on the Pokemon Center website, impacts things from a sealed perspective, but then also going to make less people cracking into booster packs of Lost Origin. Now, there's still a fair amount of booster packs out there that can be had for decent price points, so we should still see a supply of Lost Origin booster packs be out there for quite some time that make it a little bit more interesting for people to open, a little bit more easy for people to open, because they'll be paying less than MSRP for a lot of those booster packs. However, the pull rates on alternate arts in Sword and Shield, very, very difficult. Obviously, Gutina V was very difficult to pull, especially in mint condition. This is one of those cards that there seems to be a lot more 9s out there than 10s, a lot of condition issues, a lot of quality issues, because of that. Demand for this card just continues to go up and up. And as more and more attention gets paid to it, you can see only 20 available on TCG Player. You've seen huge growth over the past month. This card is at an all-time high, currently sitting at 358.24 or 356.81, depending on which graph you use on TCG Player. But down from where it was, not down, up from where it was even in May of 2023. So even when it was at its 1-year high a year ago, we saw this giant decrease up until December, when it was about $245, $250 card, and now since January, it's just gained ground like crazy, just gained steam like crazy, and with only 20 available, it might continue to go up, unfortunately. The Charizard V, there is quite a few more available for this one, the alternate art from Brilliant Stars. Beautiful artwork. I love the battle scene with the Venusaur there. 68 available on TCG Player currently. This one also looked like it might be a sub $100 card at some point in time. You can see in October of 2023, it had lost about $60 over the course of 4 or 5 months. So in May of 2023, this was sitting at about $160, and then just it fell apart like crazy all the way up until November, where it was closing in on that $100 mark. I think at one point in time it dropped to about $103, $104, and then you saw some really strong growth fairly quickly, and then leveled out a little bit. You can see on the 3-month graph from January all the way up until about end of March, January 31st to March 31st, stayed right around 115, 125, went up to about 130, and then gained about 15% over the past month. So over the past month, it's jumped up quite a bit more, sitting at 146.37, a decent amount available at 68, and that number continues to climb a little bit, so you might see this retrace a little bit. The Aerodactyl V, a little bit less of a number, only 41 available on TCG Player, some strong growth now over the past few months. This card was a $120 card in May of 2023. It did drop quite a bit over the next 8 months, so it dropped all the way down to about $80 in December of 2023, and then was relatively flat up until the middle of February. You can see it hit a bottom of about $82, and then slowly started growing a little bit, and then April 15th, right around tax time, jumped up quite a bit more, so it's sitting at $98.03 currently. Here's the Glacion V. A lot of alternate arts from Evolving Skies are being being kind of put in the same situation. This one a little bit higher than it's ever been before. You can see in April of 2023, this was sitting at about $75. It did come down in November of 2023 where it hit about $47, $48 and then leveled off a little bit again until about March 31st. That's when it really started taking off again, went from about $60, jumped up over 20% in the span of about a month. A lot of copies being bought out, a lot of FOMO setting in, and people making these decisions based off of what they're seeing. Jumped up to about $74. Demand definitely increased for that one. Same thing with the Rayquaza V from Evolving Skies. 26 available copies on TCG Player. Again, this isn't including eBay or any other sources where you might buy Pokemon cards. This was a little bit more methodical of a decline. You can see in May of 2023, it was about a $95 card. And in December of 2023, it dropped down to about $75 or so. And that was relatively flat again until about March 31st. That's when it saw a huge gain. So it went from about an $80 card in the course of about a month up to $116. So it gained about $36 in the course of about a month. And again, only 26 available copies on TCG Player. You might see this card go up even higher. Sylveon V, even less than that. The TCG Player currently only has about 19 listings right now for this card. Relatively flat pretty much throughout 2023, right? You saw a little bit of a dip in October where it dropped down to about $50, then came back up all the way up until April 15th again. That's when it really started taking off again. It jumped about 25% in the course of 3 weeks. So it's sitting at $74.57 currently. We all know what happened with Umbreon V. This again was a relatively flat card for the majority of 2023. About $90 in May of 2023. Did come down a little bit in October of 2023. It did drop below $80. I think at one point in time it hit about $78. Then rose back up to about $85, $90 all the way up until March of 2024. That's when March 31st hit, and it basically went from a $100 card to a $180 card. Jumped up about 50% over the course of a month. It's sitting at $184.94 currently. You can still find them a little bit cheaper than that, around $150, $160, but there's a lot of love for the artwork of Umbreon V. 46 available listings, but I think this one has a little bit more listings because it did start its massive incline a little bit sooner than a lot of these other ones. So a lot of people kind of taking advantage of the opportunity to maybe sell off this card to get a little bit more value out of it. The Dragonite V from Evolving Skies has exploded over the past month. $152.57 is where it's currently sitting. Only 21 available listings on TCG Player. This card was at about $120 in May of 2023 and then declined rather rapidly. In July of 2023, it was down to about $90 and stayed right around that price point again all the way up until end of March of 2024. It was probably right around $100 on March 31st there, and then really started jumping up like crazy. Gained 50%, jumped up to $152.57, and that's where it's currently sitting now. But again, only 21 available listings on TCG Player. Only 20 available listings for this Machamp V, sitting at $109.25. This card did fall below $100 for a decent period of time. In May of 2023, it was at $115, $120. It spent the majority of 2023 on the decline. You can see all the way up until March of 2024. That's where it hit that 1 year low, right around $80. And then March 1st, it just took off like crazy. Saw some decent growth in the entire month of March up until March 31st. It had jumped up to about $85, $90 and then took off from there. Now it's sitting at $109.25. So again, about a 20% jump over the course of a month. Leafeon V also seeing major growth. This one started a little bit earlier. So this one right around the middle of March, March 16th is where you saw it go from a $50 card and start gaining some steam right away. Only 17 available copies on TCG Player, currently sitting at $71.08 and continuing to trend in the upward direction. We have the Gallion Moltres V, this one from Chilling Reign. Look at that insane growth over look, that 1 year graph is absolutely nuts, going from basically a $115 card in March all the way up, like overnight, just jumped up to $160. Absolutely crazy. This one was declining a little bit in 2023. You can see in October of 2023 it had fallen right around $115, $120 and stayed relatively flat. Did go up a little bit to about $130 there in January, February area, and then in March it dropped back down to about $115. You can see March 1st all the way up until March 16th. It's sitting right around $117, $118, and then just took off like crazy, and you saw some huge gain, almost 50%, 40% gains over the next month, sitting at $158.89. 34 available listings on TCG Player. Gengar VMax has seen incredible hype over the past several weeks, especially now with Fusion Strike going out of stock on the Pokemon Center website. Surprisingly, it did come back in stock for a very brief period of time, maybe 10 minutes the other day, but sitting at $313.84 currently. Only 24 available on on TCG Player currently. Very level for the majority of 2023. You can see it did have a bit of a dip in December of 2023 where it fell to about $180, but for the most part, it's been a $200 card throughout 2023, and then in March of 2024, it went from basically $220 and then gained $100. So another 50% growth spurt over the past month, sitting at $313.84 currently. The Espeon VMax, also from Fusion Strike, doing the exact same thing, although it started a little bit earlier. March 16th, you can see sitting at $120 and then took off. This one was declining for pretty much all of 2023. At one point in time in May, it was about $160 and then slow declines pretty much throughout 2023, all the way up until December where it hit that one-year low. You can see in December right around $120, relatively flat until March 16th, and then jumped up like crazy, gained about $50, about 40% again of growth over the past month. And then we have the Blaziken VMax, also another card that's going like crazy. Only 18 available copies on TCG Player currently, so much less copies available on TCG Player than some of the other ones that we've looked at, like that Charizard V from Brilliant Stars. In May of 2023, this was sitting at about $230. Again, another card. We talked about these a lot in 2023, how they were declining like crazy. December of 2023, this one hit about $160, stayed around that point up until the end of January, and then you can see it start climbing up a little bit in February, climbing up a little bit in March, and then again March 16th seems to be the day where things really took a turn, and then started climbing like crazy. Went from about $170 all the way up to $235 basically in the span of a month and a half, and that's kind of where we're at right now. But it's not just these. On Sunday we'll talk about some of the other alternate arts that are seeing really strong growth, some of the lesser known, some of the lesser loved alternate arts. Very interesting to kind of look at, but we wanted to start this whole series by talking about the Sun and Moon alternate arts yesterday, because a lot of Pokemon cards go very cyclically. They move up and down all over the place, and that's why it's important to make the best decision with your money, the best decision for you. Really prefacing the point that it's okay to miss out every once in a while. If you miss a card, there'll be other cards that you can really love, that you can really focus on, and utilizing your collection to make the best decisions and help build up a little bit of that credit, so that way you bring the value of some of these cards down, or the cost of some of these cards down, without really impacting the value. So I hope you enjoy the content. If you do, please consider hitting that subscribe button down below. Leave a like, leave a comment. It goes a really long way for the algorithm, but most importantly, I love you guys. Thanks just for taking the time to watch the video. I'll be back on tomorrow with a live, hopefully, and then Saturday with a short, and then Sunday with another video. Until next time, guys, talk to you soon. Peace.